Hi family, how are you? Some of you have requested that I post videos when I can things, just so you can watch. And so in honor of you, I'm going to go ahead and post this video of me canning some beef stew. The process I'm going to do today is a really easy one. I believe it's called raw packing and cold packing. So, and or cold packing. Now, I need to tell you I'm not a complete noob at canning. I did do some canning when I lived up in Washington State some 25 or so years ago. But that was mostly jams and jellies and things like that. Packing full meals in a jar is something completely new to me. So new that I have to read on it and watch instruction videos and just really know what I'm going to do before I even get on there and do it. So bear with me. I'm not here to teach anything. I'm just showing you what I do, how I do it. Now, if you do want to learn how to do it or watch some people that have been doing it for years, I'll be happy to put a link in the description below. And these people are amazing. I watch channels like Homestead Heart and the Homesteading Family and Rain Country. These are just three of the people that I watch, and they've been doing this sort of thing for years and years. They really can instruct you on how to properly do everything. They will include all you need to know in their videos. Me, I'm just showing you what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, sharing it with you because you've asked me to. So that's why I'm doing it. Now, right now, I've got hot water heating. Now, I wish I had a regular like tea kettle, but I don't. All I have is this, so this will have to do. I've got my canning lids in warm water here. This is my pressure canner. It is a Presto 23 quart Presto. This is the lid. It has a gauge on top, and then the pressure valve goes right here. And I've already oiled that rubber around the lid. You have to do that in order for it to continue being pliable and come on and off easily. This is my weight that I'll be putting on there when the time comes. Now, I've got my Presto preheating, and I don't want the water to get too hot. I just want it to steam a little bit because this is going to be a cold pack and it's going to be a raw pack, and I don't want too much contrast in the temperatures so that it doesn't my jars. You don't want the explosion, you don't want the mess. I don't want the mess. So, and I don't want to put you through watching this. Now, I did decide to do a video instead of doing live because this is a long process, y'all. It's going to be super duper easy to get it put together into the jars and the jars into the canner. But once the canner is up to pressure, it's going to take 90 minutes of processing to get it done. And I'm not going to have you sit there with me for 90 minutes just watching the gauge. This is what I'll be doing. I'll be sitting in a chair in front of the stove watching my gauge to make sure that it stays at 10 pounds of pressure. My canner at my altitude, if you're going to can, you need to check to see how many feet above sea level you are, and that's what your pressure is going to be. So for me, my pressure has to can, or my, I guess it's called PSI, has to be set at 10 because we are between 0 and 1,000 feet above sea level. Anything above 1,000 feet, you have to adjust for. This I have learned. I've got my rings here. I've got my little funnel. I've got my magnet that I'll use for pulling the lids out of the hot water so that I don't burn my fingers. I've got my debubbling tool, which is this part of this tool, and then my headspace ruler, which is this part. I've got my little measuring spoons here, and then I've got the ingredients that I'm going to use for this meal. I've got my chopped up potatoes, and again, I pre-did all this stuff because you don't need to sit here and watch the tedious process of washing, peeling, chopping. It just takes way too long. I've got my carrots chopped up. I've got some celery, not a whole lot. I've got my onions. And then I've got some minced garlic because I like minced garlic. I've also got some Tony Chachere, some Pink Himalayan Sea Salt, and you never want to use an iodized salt. Nothing with iodine in it. You can use salt for pickling and canning. You can use kosher salt, Pink Himalayan salt, a good quality salt. Anytime you use any salt with iodine in it, I mean, the food will be good and you can eat it, but it won't look very appetizing. And you don't really want to do that. I mean, the whole reason I'm doing this is so that we can have some convenience meals already made. All you need to do is open it up, pour it in a pot, heat it up, and then you can eat. You know, for those nights where we don't feel like cooking, or maybe we don't feel well and gotta make something, but just don't feel up to cooking. Or hey, food shortage, you know, we experienced that last year, and that was pretty frightening. Get out there, scramble, stand in long lines, you know, oh wow, there's no meat there at all. Go see if you could find some in a can, or supplement your protein in some other way. You know, it just, that sort of thing. I don't consider myself a prepper, and that's because I'm not really prepping. I'm just saving some food that I got at a really good price, and that maybe I don't want to just, you know, freeze. I mean, I've got meats in the freezer, and that's fine. But, you know, you still have to take it out, and you still have to thaw it. And sometimes that just takes too much time. And if you've been out all day, say you've been shopping, or you've been just gone from home all day, you get home, you're hungry, and you forgot to take something out. So now you don't have anything to cook. Well, I can reach into the cabinet and pull out a jar of a convenience meal, and I'll be posting several different convenience meals. This one just happens to be beef stew. And then just take it, pour it into a pot, warm it up, and there's your dinner. And it takes very little time. And it's fun. I love canning. It's so much fun. I would highly recommend it to any of y'all. I mean, I know some of you work and you don't have time to do canning, and you know, that's fine. You know, that's fine. But if you do, or if you're home most of the time, and you know, you find time to do it, and it does take time. It does take time because you've got to wash your jars and lids and rings. You've got to chop up your food. You have to, you know, I mean, there's a lot. You want to make sure that the surface you're working on is sanitary, and you know that you're not putting anything into those jars that you don't want your family to eat. Okay, so it does take a lot of time to do, but it is a lot of fun, and it can be very rewarding, because when you pull something out of that canner and it worked, the seals sealed properly and it worked, you get that sense of accomplishment. Look what I did, you know, this is super cool. And so I recommend it. If you've never tried it, give it a try. Right now, I'm so new at all this that I'm following recipes. I mean, I'm following exact recipes. I haven't yet ventured out into creating my own recipes, or, you know, just canning recipes that I've already, you know, been cooking for years and just putting them in a jar and just canning them. I haven't ventured out that far yet because I'm very new. And when you're very new, you do need to follow directions. Get to know your canner. Get to know the process. Get to know what you can and cannot do. And this takes time. I mean, I've no doubt I'll be posting more and more videos on many different things, and eventually I'll get to where I'm canning things that are not an exact recipe out of a book. So, and if you want to come along with me, you're welcome to, you know, like, subscribe, so that you can get, if you hit the little bell thing, you can get notifications when I post something. If you want to follow along, go ahead and do it. Like I said, I'm doing this for my family that posted, or not posted, I'm sorry, voiced an interest in watching me do this, and some friends that have also voiced this interest. So that's why I'm doing these. And any of y'all that want to come along and watch, you are welcome to. Now, if you want to post comments, suggestions, creative criticism, all that is welcome. Now, if you want to get nasty and be mean, I'm just going to delete it and I'm going to block you, because I don't need that in my life. I'm doing this for my family and my friends. I'm not doing this to entertain y'all. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that really enjoy, you know, telling people how they need to do things, but yet they've never done it, or criticizing people, or what's the word they call trolling, just trying to get people upset. I'm not going to let that bother me, because that's not what my channel is for. This channel is for what I'm doing, so that I can share what I'm doing with my friends and family, and they'll have a place to come and see it. So like, subscribe, hit the little bell if you want to be notified next time I post something. If you don't particularly like my video, you don't have to do any of that. Okay, I've got the jars sitting in my sink over there. I can't, this is a very jerry-rigged operation here with my phone, so I can't really flip it around and all of that. I have to better my equipment, so to speak, for recording. But I will be going over there getting the jars, which are sitting in hot water so they can remain kind of warm. And we're gonna get started, okay? So I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got my jars. They're still warm from the water. I've got my meat all chopped up roughly into 1-inch cubes, and that is roughly. I did forget to mention my jar grabber. I'll need these especially to take them out of the canner. And from my canner, 23 quart Presto, I can fit 7 quarts into the canner. And this is a quart jar. So we're going to be packing that up. Now, I don't like to touch meat with my bare hands. I do when I have to, but fortunately I don't have to at this point. So I'm not going to. I'm going to put on my gloves and I'm going to pack these jars and get started. Okay, so here we go. Let me adjust the camera a little bit. Now, I don't have a whole lot of room to work down here, so let's get this going here. All right, I might also use a cup measure just to make sure I get, you know, roughly the same amount of meat and products into the jars. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then work it into the funnel, because the funnel's not really meant for solid items in there. So let's get that. Putting this together like this is so easy, y'all. I mean, you can, from what I've learned, and again, I am not a pro at this, from what I've learned, you can upgrade this by browning the meat first, so it'll hold its color better and give it that extra flavor. But I just want to get it done. And because I just want to get it done, I'm just going to do it this way. And yes, I'm using the funnel because I make messes. I make a lot of messes. And because I don't want to make a mess with this, I'm just going to go ahead and use my funnel. Make it that much easier. Now you can see the boiling water back there in this little container. And I'll probably have to get some gloves, some oven gloves, oven mitts, and pick that up when I'm ready because that glass is going to be hot. I need to get myself a large tea kettle. I still have some meat left over, so I'm going to pick this up, maybe shake them down a little bit. Okay, and then I think I'll go ahead and just add a little extra to the jars. Just because I don't really want to have to do this again. Do a whole nother set. And you never want to really pack it down real tight because you do need that water to get in there and work along all of this stuff, and you really need it to work. So, but you do want, you know, to get rid of some of those air bubbles on the bottom because that's something you don't want. Well, I still have some meat left over and I will probably use it for something else. But now, okay, I'm done working with the meat so I could take my gloves off. And now I'm going to start with the potatoes. And I do have more chopped up over by the sink, just so that, and my hands are very clean, by the way, just so that, you know, if I run out, you know, I don't have to stop and chop some more up. Wow, that is a lot of potato going in there. I cannot put that much potato in there. Okay, that's better. I think I'm gonna just kind of eyeball it here because I don't want that much potato. I still have to get carrots and all this other good stuff in there. I think I'm going to definitely be having to do a second batch because I'm going to have some meat and potatoes and carrots left over. And the potatoes and carrots aren't a big deal because I can can those separately and then just have, you know, extra potatoes and carrots just sitting around waiting for me to use. But the meat is going to need to be, you know. All right, let's move on to the carrots. Get some carrots in here. Now I need to leave a 1-inch headspace on these jars, and 1 inch, oh, I've frozen somehow. Okay, y'all, something happened. I don't know where I lost you, but my phone froze. I have no idea why. But anyway, I'm back. And what I was saying, and hopefully I caught it in time, I do need to leave a 1-inch headspace. Now that is about right here on this line. Now I am going to measure it just to be safe with my little headspace tool, but I have to be careful not to add so much food that I exceed the headspace, because the food can swell and, you know, move around, and the meat's going to lose some fluid. And if you go above that headspace, your seal may not work. If your liquid is too far above that, the seal may not work, and then, you know, you're done. The jar won't seal, and it won't, you'll have to eat it within the next couple of days. So, and since what I want to do is let it just sit there and, you know, just be there for when I need it, I want to make sure that my seals seal nicely. Now I'm going to add a little bit of celery. Not a lot, just a little bit for flavor. Now I can already tell this jar right here is really full, and it's going to give me a bit of a hard time getting some of my stuff in here. So I need to be careful with that. I seem to be shooting celery everywhere. And I'm not really sure if it's the meat or the potatoes. Wow, my celery's jumping around everywhere. Okay, I'll put that over there. Now I need to get onions in here. I guess I shouldn't have taken my gloves off, huh? That's all right, I'll wash my hands. You coming in? It goes.
Looks good.
It looks good, doesn't it?
No, I was just going to come in and shut the camera off on my phone. I'm going to be setting it off like crazy.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, lots of garlic. Gotta love the garlic.
No, I'm not putting in lots of garlic. I'm going to put a little bit of garlic, like half a teaspoon or even a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic, because it'll get very strong sitting in the jar. So I don't want to put too much in there and then have it overwhelm the food. But I prefer using the fresh garlic to the garlic powder. So do that. Okay, garlic is done. Now I'm going to put the onions in. Yeah, see, that's going to exceed that headspace. Well, not quite, but it could. So I may have to go in there and remove some carrots or some potato or something just to make sure that I have good head spacing in there. And like I said, y'all, you know I'm not a total noob, but I am far from a professional YouTuber. I mean, this is only the second video I've ever uploaded on YouTube, and the first one was just my grandson's birthday, so Kian's birthday. I think it was his first birthday, wasn't it, honey?
Yeah.
Yep, it was Kian's first birthday, and I uploaded it so the rest of the family could see it because it was too big to send in the text.
It smells good out here too.
Does it?
Yeah, when you walk out, you know how you walk in and out of a place when you've been cooking?
Yeah? Well, and this isn't even cooking yet.
Well, it's the garlic.
Yeah, it's the garlic. Gotta separate out these onions. I've chopped them up, but they have chosen to stay all bulked up. Okay. Let's pull a couple out of that jar because there's way too many. All right. And I am going to have to go in here and get, let's see. I'm going to have to get in here and maybe pull out a potato or two. not the carrots. There we go. There we go. Just one potato makes a world of difference, I'll tell you what. Okay, so now I'm going to use half a teaspoon of my Pink Himalayan Sea Salt. Because it's a quart jar. If you were doing it in a pint jar, you would use a 1/4 teaspoon. And this is not for preserving purposes. This is for flavor. This has nothing to do with preserving the food. The pressure canning will be what preserves the food. All right, now I'm putting in some black pepper, and the black pepper I'm only going to do a 1/4 teaspoon because I don't want it to be overpowering. Again, I just want it for flavoring. And the last one is Tony Saturé, and it is a Cajun spice, so it can be very spicy, so no more than a 1/4 teaspoon. I mean, it can get overwhelming if you use too much, so, but everybody here likes it, so we're going to put some in, and that's going to be it. I'm not going to put anything else in here seasoning wise, because I just, you know, I do still want to give it some flexibility. So look at how pretty that looks. Okay, now I'm gonna get an oven mitt. This is steaming, so that's doing good. So now I'm going to get an oven mitt. I'm going to shut that off. Oh, this is heavy. There we go. And I'm going to pour hot water to the 1-inch headspace. No more than that. I need to maintain that 1-inch headspace. Now once we debubble, that headspace could change, or that water level could change. So I may need to add a little more to bring it back up to where it needs to be, because the food does kind of accumulate bubbles in it, and you got to remove those bubbles because you don't want them in there when you're cooking. They could also pop your seal. So you can see bubbles right here. How about that? That was just... All right, see, even some of the bubbles are coming up on their own, as you can see here. So then you take your debubbler and you bring it around like the outer border, and you let the debubbler move that food around and eliminate those bubbles from your jar. You don't ever want to have bubbles. I mean, you want to remove as many bubbles as possible. Put it that way. And you want to make sure that you debubble every one of them. And I mean, I've seen some of the people, you know, and the people that I've been watching on YouTube, the people that I'm going to go ahead and either link in the description or put their names in the description, these folks go in, quickly debubble, and I mean, they just work really, really fast. I'm not going to work really, really fast because I'm really, really new at doing this whole convenience food thing, and I want to make sure it seals. I want to make sure I do it right. I want to make sure it's safe for my family to eat, so I'm going to take my time making sure I've debubbled, making sure I've got, you know, the right headspace, making sure I've got everything properly done. And then I will go ahead and put the lids on and start the process. But it's very important, y'all, that you have the right headspace, because you do want a good seal. Now, have any of you, I'm kind of curious, have any of you been canning? Have any of you done any canning in the past? What's your favorite thing to can? Or what's your favorite thing to eat from something somebody else, maybe your aunt, your uncle, your parents, your grandparents, somebody has canned? What is your favorite thing to eat? Like, I recently made some candied jalapenos, and y'all, let me tell you, those are good. I mean, Dad and I don't usually eat jalapenos, but we've been adding it to the foods that we've been eating because it's so good. Now, this jar here, I may need to take some stuff out of. I don't know just yet. But see how the water level dropped? It's down here now. So I am going to have to replace some of that water. And that's okay. That's why there's extra water in the kettle. And actually, you know what this little thing is? It's not a tea kettle. It's an old coffee, oh, I forget what they're called, but percolator. There it is. An old coffee percolator. Now, the percolating part broke a long time ago. But I still have this, and it still heats up water just fine. So you use what you got. Last one, guys. Sorry it's taking so long. But you gotta be careful, and you gotta be sure it's done right. Especially when you're first doing it, you know, when you first get started. Once you get confident enough to just zip right through all this, then, well, then you're confident enough to do it, and you don't need to go as slowly as I'm going. But I need to go slowly, and I think I still may have a few too many potatoes in here. There we go. That's back down. All right, so the water level has gone down on a lot of the jars. So I need to bring that water level back up to the 1-inch headspace. Alrighty, make sure that no additional air bubbles went in there when I added new water. I shouldn't, because it's like topping it off, but you know, never be too careful. Alright, and now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this other side, and I'm going to make sure that the liquid and the food does not reach. See, now I have too much in there. I need to remove something. Let's go after the huge potatoes and see Yeah, okay, that's going to be fine right there. You make sure that your liquid and your food, none of it is touching your ruler. Now that one has a little bit too much water. I'm going to go in and fish out. I'm going to use this little thing here. And I'll just dump it into there. There we go. All right. That's done. Now, this next step is really important as well. What I have here is one of those little dollar store pumps. And in here I have white vinegar. Which reminds me, just a second. One of the things you definitely need to do when you're canning is you need to add, now I didn't mention this at the beginning, but my Presto canner requires 3 quarts of water on the bottom before I can. For the canning process, I need to add 3 quarts of water to the pressure canner and then warm it up to like a steam. If I were doing a hot pack, then it would have to be really hot and the jars would have to be kept really hot to match the food, to match the temperature in there. But you always have to have 3 quarts of water in the pressure canner, and you need to check the instructions on your own pressure canner to find out how much it requires. Mine requires 3 quarts. Now, one of the things you always want to do is I add 2 tablespoons of white vinegar to the water in my pressure canner. What this does is it keeps the jars from getting cloudy. And, you know, it doesn't affect the food, but the jars look much better when they're clear. It gets this cloudy, white, funky film on it, and I forgot to do that the first time I did it, and I have yet been able to get rid of that white, cloudy thing on some of my jars. So always, always add your white vinegar to that water. Believe me, you'll be glad you did. Okay, so back to what I was saying. This is a very important step, y'all. You need to wipe off the rim of all your jars. And by the way, whenever you're going to can, always be sure you check your jars to make sure that the rim is not damaged in any way, you know, scratched or chipped or any of that, because it can cause your seals to fail. So, and right now I am wiping down the rims so that there's no, because there could be like splashes of water from when I was debubbling, which will already have some of the water that has the meat on it. You know, it could get on the rim and cause it not to seal. The salt, any of the seasonings that I put in there can be on the seal, and then any little thing that is underneath that lid will cause your seal to fail. So you make sure that you wipe down the rims of your jars really, really well. And the vinegar makes sure that if there's any grease in there or on there, that it comes off too. And then the last step is to fish out your jar lids. Get them onto your jars. See where this little magnet comes in really handy? And this way you don't touch the underside of your lid either, which keeps it sanitary. And then you put your rings on. And the way you put them on, you get to, you flip it, you get to there, and then you finger tighten it. You never get your wrist involved. It's a slight, you start feeling resistance, and that's where you get to it, and that's it. Because the jar needs to be able to release pressure as it's in the canner. Let me move some of these to the pressure canner. Okay, now I can move these up. Come on. Sometimes I have a hard time lining the rings with the rings of the jar. And I will try to bring you all over here so that you can see what it looks like inside my canner. Okay, a little motion here, sorry. But there you go. That is what it looks like inside the canner. Okay. All right, so the next step, you want to check and make sure that your little pressure thingy moves freely. And you want to look through your little pressure valve, release valve, to make sure you can see through it. Just kind of aim it at the light. That's just to make sure there's nothing stuck in there that will interfere with it. You put it on, you screw it shut, and you turn up the heat to medium high. You don't put the weight on yet, okay? Once it starts steaming, and then this little pressure valve will start releasing pressure, will start releasing steam, and it'll be a straight stream of steam, and it'll be pretty hard. I'll show you what it looks like when it happens. Then you put it on, and then you wait until it reaches the proper pressure on your pressure gauge. But for now, I'm just going to wait until it starts doing that, and then I'll be back, okay? Okay, so we've got meat left over, and I discussed it with Dad, and, well, I say Dad because I'm talking to my family. He's not my dad, he's my husband, but we discussed it, and we're going to do shish kebabs. So I'm going to chop up some peppers and some onion, pull out my shish kebab sticks, and get that all set up for dinner tonight. That way I don't have to try and do a whole nother batch, and hey, we got dinner. Good idea, huh? Okay, now I wanted to show you something. You see how that's releasing some steam? That's still kind of broken. I don't know if you could see it there, but that is still kind of broken. So it's not ready yet. And I need to correct something I said earlier. I said when it starts at a straight stream, then I put the weight on. No, that's not so. When it starts at a good, strong, straight stream, I have to set the timer for 10 minutes, and I have to let it vent for a full 10 minutes before I put the weight on. That way it vents out the pressure and everything just kind of pressurizes in sync. Okay, you have to let it vent for 10 minutes once it's at a good straight stream, and I'll get back on here and show y'all what that looks like. Okay, here we go. You see how this is going up now? It's like a straight stream, nice and steady, and really kind of hard just pushing up there. All right, so now I'm gonna set my timer for 10 minutes and let it just steam. And when that timer goes off, then I will put the little weight jiggler on there and wait for the canner to reach 10 psi. And then I set the timer for 90 minutes. And I'll sit here and watch it the full 90 minutes to make sure that the pressure stays where it needs to go, because it can fluctuate back and forth, and if it drops below the pressure you need it to be, you kind of have to start all over, and I don't like doing that. So I'm going to watch it and make sure it doesn't go down. So I'll be back when I'm ready to put this little weight on. All right, y'all. My timer's getting ready to go off, and that's when my venting is done. So at that point, once it goes off, I put on the little jiggler, or the little top. Try to come at it from the side. There we go. It's on. Now I have to wait for it to reach 10 pounds of pressure. Once it hits 10 pounds of pressure, I reset my timer for 90 minutes or an hour and a half, and I sit and wait for it to process, making sure the pressure doesn't change. So I'll see you in a little bit. Actually, it'll be a little bit for you. It'll be an hour and a half, probably, for me. See you soon. My timer's going. My pressure's up to 10 pounds of pressure. And I'm in this little chair here, or it's actually a little stool. But I'm in this for the next hour and a half. Bring along some reading. Glance up every now and again to make sure it's still at the proper pressure. And here we are. All right, y'all, it's been 90 minutes in another 10 seconds, and the timer's about to go off. So when it does, what I'm going to do is shut the timer off, shut the heat off, and then I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to leave it alone now until the pressure comes down all by itself. It's got to cool off. The pressure has to release or calm down. I'm not sure what word to use for that. But it has to do that on its own. That means I'm not going to jiggle the bell or try and take it off. If you try and take it off at this point, I don't know what would happen, but it could like explode or who knows. So the heat goes off. I don't have to watch it anymore. I can walk away now and leave it alone. And when the heat or the pressure has died down completely, the gauge says 0, this little pressure, I call it a pressure nipple, I don't know what you would call it, but this little pressure thing that's lifted right now, when it's back down completely, the pressure gauge says 0 pressure, then I'll remove the bell, then I'll open the canner. Okay, so I'll be back probably in about a half hour, and I'll see you then. Okay, y'all, pressure's down. Let me show you what I mean. See, this little nipple is down, and you see the gauge? It's back to 0. So now I can remove the little bell and open it up. And face it away from yourself too. That's something I learned from the other people that I've watched. You need to face it away from yourself or you risk, you know, burning off your face. It's hot in there. And all these jars are bubbling, bubbling, bubbling. Now you're not going to be able to see me put them down on this other table because it's behind me, but I will change the view so that you can see them afterward, okay? Oh, there went one, sealed. See? As they cool off, you hear the little lids going pop. See, there's another one. See it? Well, you can't see it and I can't tilt this. But there we go. And it smells wonderful in here. All these jars are bubbling, bubbling, bubbling. Now something spilled over. I can either spilled over or some of the liquid was drawn out of one of these jars, and hopefully the seal didn't fail by doing so, but I can tell because the water, I can see it in the water in the canner. But so far they all seem to be doing good. So maybe it was just during the pressurizing process. In any case, I will be, wiping these down in about 16 hours. These will, okay, I found the jar, actually. The bottom of the jar came off. I don't know what happened there. I don't know why, but look at that. The whole bottom came off when I tried to take it up. This whole thing's gonna go in the garbage, and so is everything that was in the jar. The others did fantastic. So I don't know what happened with that jar. Maybe it was, pre-damaged and I didn't know about it. But we lost that one and all its contents. And see, a lot of different things can happen when you're canning. It doesn't always go perfectly. They don't always come out great. And sometimes the seals fail. I don't think I have any failed seals because I've heard them all pop and they're all bubbling nicely on these other ones. sometimes if there's damage to the jar that you don't catch, like I never saw damage to that jar. I have no idea what happened to that jar, and it sat in warm water before going in here. I used it the same as I did all the other jars, and for whatever reason that one really failed hard. So I'm gonna have to clean out that pressure canner really well, and everything that's in there is gonna go in the garbage. Plain and simple. There's glass in there, and all of that goes in the garbage. But let me bring you over here. There we go. 6 jars of, gosh, I can't get this camera right. See how that's still bubbling in there? 6 jars of beef stew. And now they have to sit there undisturbed for 12 to 16 hours. And if any of them failed by the end of that time, well, then that'll be dinner tomorrow. But that's it. And oh, there went another one sealing. I love hearing that sound. It's so fun. It just means you did it right. Okay, so that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed tagging along with me while I did this first time canning of beef stew. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and like it. If you want to see more, subscribe and turn on your little bell so you'll be notified. If you don't, then don't. But thank you anyway for hanging out, and we'll see you later. Bye.